Hello everybody, this is Bearwit, and I wanted to talk to you today about starting those pinch pots. So pinch pots are some of the oldest ways to create a ceramics form, dating way back, BCs, back before, before I can remember even. That's a long time. So I'm gonna have you guys take pieces of clay, and really I think I still got too much here, because the chunks of clay that you take, we want them to be about golf ball size. By the way, notice that I've used this piece of fabric, that canvas piece that is in your kit. It's going to be helpful for you at home and at school, so you want to make sure that you're bringing it back and forth. I think that I've got just way too much. I always do that. I think that the pinch pots are easier to create with a smaller amount, especially when you're beginning, a smaller amount of clay. So you want it to be able to fit in your hand pretty easily. Like, see how that can rest in the palm of my hand pretty easily? That's pretty good. So I want to make this into a sphere. So I'm just going to round it, roll it around in my hands. And I want to do that for all three, because I want you to make 3 pinch pots today, because part of the objective here is, there's a couple of them. One, I want you to know how to make pinch pots, because that's a thing. That's a really a method of creating. But in doing so, since they're fast and pretty easy to make, we can create 3 of them, and then we can set them in different ways. We can wrap them in different ways so that they dry differently. Okay. In this way, you will understand how to wrap up your work to keep it from getting too dry. And that's huge. If you have an assignment that you're working on and it gets too dry, if it becomes bone dry, and you'll see for yourselves what that looks like, it will be too late to fix it. Clay shrinks quite a bit. So once it shrinks, in fact, it's about 12% from beginning to end. So this is Greenware, right? And you've watched those videos, or you've watched that PowerPoint, and that Greenware stage is one of the first stages. And then there are sub-stages of Greenware. So this is plastic clay, remember. Plastic clay to its driest, to being fired, it's going to be around 12% that it shrinks. So once it's done that and it's bone dry and ready for firing, it's almost impossible to try to fix. So if something falls apart, breaks off, it's not easy to repair. Sometimes it's just easier to start over. And you sure don't want that to happen to your work. So I've got my pinch pot ready, or at least my ball of clay ready to make into a pinch pot. And then I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to press it into the center. Okay, so it's sticking on my thumb. Okay, then I'm going to start pinching way up at the top here. If I turn my hand sideways, you can see that I'm looking at feeling about that much of a gap in between my thumb and my finger. You just can't see it, obviously, because the clay's there. But I want it to be about 1/8 of an inch thick. And then I'm gonna turn my hand, but I'm just rotating it on this thumb. So twist, twist, that's what I'm doing. And then I'm adding the pinch as I twist it. So it's pivoting on my thumb. And that allows me to press the clay and overlap those pinches, so I'm evening out those walls as I go. So you can see the inside right now is looking kind of fat up here, but it's only about that thick down here, okay? I also think that I often have people that want to make the pinch pots and then they want to set it down on this. So don't do that. Fight that urge. We have a round bottom and we want to keep it round for right now. If you have to set it down on its rim. So this is called the lip of a pot. And then you can pick it back up and keep going so it doesn't cave in that nice round base. Now, something else I can do to tell you is that when I'm working, when I'm working, I keep my thumb straight up and down. So I keep it straight up and down, and then I move my finger in. So I'm pinching, but I'm not pinching with my thumb over. If I pinch with my thumb over, it's gonna make a pot that comes out really wide. So if you're getting pie plate kind of look, and it's getting really super wide, then check if you're keeping your thumb straight up and down. And if you're not doing that, it can cause that lean out. Also, every once in a while I have somebody that will want to use these fingers, and that also will make it really wide. So try to just hang that straight up and down like that, and then turn it, but try to keep your thumb straight up and down in front of you. This way you're gonna control it. You can still lean out some. So what if I want a pot that goes out this way a little bit? Well, you can make that happen still. I mean, I'm doing that right now, making it come out. You can see that the side of it is looking more bowl-like. But the tendency to lose control over it to go really flat is pretty great. So if you practice keeping your thumb kind of straight up and down, you're gonna get something that's probably straight up and down or closer to that, you know? So you see the lip of this piece now. As I've done that, as I've been working, I've been moving my fingers up or down, however you look at it, down my thumb, up the pot. And then when I get to the lip of it, it's getting closer to that 1/8 of an inch or so. And that's good, because we don't want the piece to be too thick. Too thick, you guys, is a bad thing in the potter's world. So a potter, somebody who makes functional wares, wants things to be nice and lightweight. There's a visual weight to functional pieces because they're functional. So if you go to your cabinet and you get out a plate or a bowl and it's heavier than you expect, you would notice that. So when you're in the classroom, I could give you examples of that, of works that have been made with too thick a clay at the bottom, and then it feels very heavy. And it's very obvious that it's that way. So I think when I say that, if you've never experienced that before, then it's kind of hard to fathom. So if you are in the classroom, I will make sure that I give you some of those examples of what a visual weight really is when it's off balance or out of expectation. Okay, so there's my piece. Now I'm gonna set it upside down and I'm gonna work on another. Notice it's still got some lumpies on it, but that's okay. Also notice, since it's plastic, it's really flexible still. So if I try to do much more to it at this stage, it's going to be a problem because it can collapse on me so easily. So I know, because I've been doing this for a long time, that the stage, the next stage that this will go through as it dries is a better stage to work on smoothing it out even more. I did some of that. So I'm gonna make another one. So we're just gonna do the same thing 3 times, that's all, for right now. And I'm gonna go probably a little bit faster This clay is perfect. It's really nice and soft. If your clay cracks a lot, then it could be that the clay is a little bit too dry and you might need just a tiny bit of water, just a little drop on your fingertip. I mean, that little can be enough. It could mean that you have really warm hands. If you have really warm hands, you're gonna dry the clay out faster, and that's okay. I mean, that's just the way we're built. So you just know that you're gonna have to have a little bit of water next to you or slip next to you as you're building. And if I have little tiny cracks like this, I mean, there's some right there. I don't know if you can see, but those are such a surface thing that it's not noticeable. It's not gonna be a problem. I'm not saying that I would leave it that way, but in that other stage that I was telling you about over here, when we get to that let they're hard, that'll be easy enough to clean up and fill in. So it's not if it's a structural, I can't say the word. If it's a structural crack, then we've got problems, and you definitely want to take care of it while you're building, while you're pinching this pot. So there's where I'm at, right? And as we get to the lip of it, you'll notice maybe it's not perfectly even. As long as I don't have structural cracks, like I said, it's okay if it's uneven. In fact, there are potters that like to work. I think these are kind of organic-like, so sometimes I'll purposely add more clay to make them more pod-like or something. But there's ways to make it really nice and straight across if we want later, but that's not my objective for today. So let's go ahead and make another one. I'll go from this side now so that you can see a different angle maybe as I'm working. I usually hang it, like I said, so that it's kind of awkward for me to work this way. But so you can see what I'm talking about when I'm overlapping those pinches. You can see like it'll squish out, kind of like if you've ever seen somebody make a pie crust. When they get to the top of it, sometimes you'll do something specific with your fingers by pinching, and it'll leave marks. So we don't really want all those marks. I mean, you could if you're planning it out as part of your surface decoration, but not just accidentally, right? So they need to be purposeful looking. So I overlap those pinches enough that they disappear, or pretty close to disappearing. Okay, so there we are. Now, for today, I want you to take your pinch pots, or when you make these, you're gonna take your pinch pots and we're gonna wrap them up separately. So if you have more bags at home, that's fine. You can use more bags. I think it's probably less problem if I show you with 3 separate bags. So the first way, and this is the way that you're gonna keep your work from getting too dry most of the time, is that I put my piece in the bag, or I put my bag over my piece if it's larger. And then I try, if it's open like this, it's got the wide open bowl, then I stuff some of the bag inside there, and notice I'm chasing all of the air out of that bag. So the bag is sticking to my clay, okay? So there I go. So I'm chasing all the air out. That means that it's less likely to dry out. If I'm really, really concerned, like for some reason, I have to wait a long time, 4 or 5 days, even 3 days, I suppose it can be a long time. I might take a second bag and cover over this just to make sure that it doesn't get any drier than this, okay? So 1, I want you to wrap this way, and probably, you know, your favorite or second favorite. 2, then wrap so that We're tucking under the ends of it, but we're leaving like this tent of air around it, okay? So kind of a tent. Like I said, this guy is at the campground, all covered up nicely. This one is like a tent. All right, so this one is not covered at all. So we will see what stages we have after 2 days. All right, so we should have our stages that I talked to you about. We should have plastic, we should have leather hard, and bone dry.